Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop. All the news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's the host.
I'm Bettina Lawton, and welcome to our Labor Day show on Inside Scoop. Is labor undergoing a resurgence in the United States? According to a Gallup poll released last week, labor has its highest approval rating at 61% since 2003. That's up 5% in just the last year. 81% of Democrats approve of unions versus 42% of Republicans. 39% of Americans say unions should have a greater influence, but 46% believe unions will be weaker in the future. Of the 16 million workers that are represented by unions, that's 1 in 9 U.S. workers, nearly half are public sector workers. Of the 16 million, about 10 million are women or people of color. And more than half of the 16 million have at least an associate's degree or more education. Here in Virginia, in 2016, the voters refused to enshrine an anti-union right-to-work amendment into its constitution. And although Virginia has a right-to-work law since 1947, the defeat of a constitutional amendment was a major victory. To talk about these and other labor issues, I will be joined by David Broder, president of the Service Employees International Union, Virginia 512, Tammie Wondong Ware, president, Fairfax County Government Employees Union, Neri Canahui-Ortiz, president, Carpenters Union Local 197, and Elizabeth Guzman, a candidate in the 31st District for the Virginia House of Delegates. So let's get started with David Broder. David is the president of SEIU Virginia 512. The son and grandson of union members, Broder empowers working people to fight for living wages, quality health care, and secure retirements for everyone. He sits on the boards of the Virginia Community College System, the Northern Virginia Aging Network, the New Virginia Majority, Progress VA, and the Virginia Progressive Leadership Project. And on top of that, he has 2 adorable children. So, David, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
So let's set the stage for our viewers. What does SEIU Virginia Local 512 represent? Who do they represent?
We represent some amazing working women and men, the women and men who make our communities run. So our members are home care providers across the Commonwealth, and they're county employees and deputy sheriffs in Fairfax and Loudoun County. So if you go into your local library, you see our members. If you go to your local park or go to your local after-school program, you'll see our members. Our members are mental health nurses. They are making sure that older adults get the care they need. They are making sure that our communities are great places to live and work and play.
So we have this Gallup poll that came out last week. What are we seeing in the labor movement in Virginia? Does that follow the national trends?
Absolutely. I mean, we are living in pretty polarized times these days, but I think the one thing that both the left and the right and the center agree on is that our economy is broken. Our economy is deeply broken, and people are fed up. They are seeing too much wealth and too much power concentrated in the hands of a few individuals at the very top. And I think that's why you're seeing people looking to unions, really looking to themselves and their coworkers to say, we need to put a stop to this. We need to rebalance our economy so that all working people have a fair shot to get ahead.
Well, it is pretty shocking when you look at sort of the wage stagnation that's been going on versus the huge amount of profits some of these corporations are reporting. And that 1% distinction just keeps coming back and back and back. So is that the big reason for unions, is to try and give people that sort of collective voice against what are perceived to be the more powerful employers and government and places like that?
That's exactly right. For as long as people have been working, they've wanted a voice. They wanted to unite with their coworkers and to make sure that they have a living wage, as you mentioned, but also to make sure that they're safe on the job, that they're going to be secure if anything happens, that they're going to be secure in their retirement, and that their children are going to grow up to have an even better life than they've had. And I think that is why you are seeing a resurgence in labor. Our economy is being impacted by large forces, large corporations, by globalization, work is shifting. And I think that is why you are seeing people turn to unions to balance that and to really make sure that as the economy shifts, as the world shifts, they're still going to be able to provide for their families. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of new economy jobs. You're seeing workers in those industries unionize. So whether you're looking at childcare workers or adjunct professors or Uber and Lyft riders, people are very eager to make sure that if they're going to work hard day in, day out, that they and their families are going to be able to prosper.
Well, that's one of the things that surprised me in this Gallup poll report that came out, because it talked about people in Silicon Valley unionizing, and you don't typically think of a union worker as somebody who's doing IT. That's not our sort of standard thought when we think union workers.
That's right. For a lot of time when we think about union workers, frankly, when we think about work in this country, politicians and TV and movies have reinforced the idea of a blue-collar laborer with a hard hat in a factory somewhere. And we still have lots of factory workers, and that work is important. But our economy has really transformed, and I think some of our popular culture, and certainly our politicians, are a little bit behind the time on acknowledging this, as you said. And we as a country have really fundamentally shifted from that kind of manufacturing base to a service economy. And so again, whether it is whether hotel workers or restaurant workers or child care and home care providers, we are a service economy. And what we need to do now is to do what our manufacturing sisters and brothers did in the last century, which is to make sure that the jobs that exist now are good middle-class jobs, that you can earn a living wage, that you can raise your children to have an even better life than you had. There is nothing about a factory job that makes it more deserving of a living wage than a service sector job. True. It's just that workers organized then, and workers are organizing now.
So let me ask, because in the intro I mentioned this right to work constitutional amendment that got turned down in Virginia. But what is right to work? What is that called?
Sure. So on one level, right to work is a law that simply says you have the right to join your union or not. It's a fairly simple thing. On the other hand, right to work is part of a right-wing strategy funded by large corporations to limit the power of working people. Right to work laws limit the power of unions, and so companies are interested, large corporations want to do that because they don't want to have to pay living wages, and they don't want to have to be bothered by safety regulations and sitting down at the table with their employees. And so the result of what you see in right-to-work states is that working people in right-to-work states, union members and non-union members, make less money. They are less safe on the job. And what really kills me as I think about my two girls, children in right-to-work states are more likely to go hungry and live in poverty because of right-to-work.
Wow. So in Virginia then, I mean, it would seem like unions would have a really hard time organizing because of this right to work. Is that what happens in right to work states? It's just that much more difficult to organize?
On one level, yes. The laws are put there to make it harder. The right to work law encourages free riders. It allows people on a work site to say, well, I'm going to get all the benefits of the union and I don't have to join and pay dues. So I'm going to let them go ahead and work for me.
And that's because you have to negotiate for everybody in that particular unit, whether they're a union member or not.
That's right.
So they get the benefits. So
that doesn't work very well, because you could imagine, Bettina, we wouldn't run a company like that. No. You wouldn't say to your customers, well, some of you can pay me, but everybody is going to get our product. And we certainly wouldn't run our country like that, where we would say, well, some of you can pay taxes and some of you don't.
Really? Because I think that's pretty much what we have, to tell you the truth.
Except now that we say it, we do.
We do.
And in Virginia, where 2/3 of large corporations don't pay any state tax.
Wow.
And so that is connected, I believe, because that's the other reason that large corporations are interested in these laws that limit the rights of working people. They know that in states where unions have smaller memberships, that we're less able to fight back against some of those laws and policies. But the truth, as you noted, is that people are standing up. And yes, the laws are a little bit tougher, but when you think about the amazing teachers and firefighters and child care providers who make up our union base in Virginia, you know they're facing greater challenges than right to work every day, and they're succeeding.
So what's at stake for the working families? We've got a big election coming up.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. There is so much on the line in this election. Are we going to raise wages for people in Virginia? Are we going to finally expand Medicaid and ensure that everybody has health care? Are we going to do something to lower the cost of child care and of higher education? Are we going to make sure that we can rebalance the economy so that working families who were able to prosper decades ago are going to be able to prosper again? And how do we build an economy so that communities of color and a lot who have always been left out are finally able to enter? And I'm so glad you mentioned the election. I brought you something.
Oh, you did?
We at SEIU, we like to say we are healthcare voters.
Oh, look at that.
And so wanted to, I know healthcare is important to you.
Absolutely is.
And so wanted to share that with you and invite you to come out and knock doors with us and talk about what's at stake in this election.
Absolutely. I love knocking doors. I'm so with you. So what are some of the issues that are coming up? So, because I'm assuming that this falls down in the traditional way, just as the approval ratings is, twice as much from Democrats than Republicans, that the living wage, the health care, all of those things depend on who gets elected, which side, so to speak, gets elected.
I think that's right in the candidates, although what we're seeing is voters. When you talk to voters, whether they're Democrats, independents, or Republicans, everybody agrees that we need to raise wages. When you talked about the constitutional amendment, there was a lot of crossover voters. We defeated that constitutional amendment with a lot of votes, and so there were a lot of people who voted for Hillary Clinton and no to the right to work amendment, but there also were tens of thousands of people who voted for Trump and voted no on the constitutional amendment. So the voters are with us on these issues more than ever before, but the political parties are a little stuck. So I do want to be very clear as we're talking to your viewers that there is a huge contrast in this election. The choice could not be more clear. And when we want to elect champions for working people, people who are going to help us get ahead, that we are talking about Ralph Northam for governor, Justin Fairfax for lieutenant governor, and Mark Herring for attorney general.
Okay. It would seem that are there actual labor candidates running? I know that labor endorses people, but are there candidates who are labor people to begin with running for office this year?
We are very excited to see working people step up and run. We had a lot of labor candidates run in the primaries, and I want to acknowledge my union sisters and brothers, Tilly Blanding and Josh King, who ran in the primaries. We are also very excited, and I know you're going to have her on the show tonight, about Elizabeth Guzman, who was an SEIU member when she worked in Fairfax and an AFSCME member now, and we could not be more excited to help send her to Richmond.
Well, we are going to take a break right there because we've got to take a break. But then we're going to come back. David's going to stay with us, and we're going to have Tammie Wondong Ware come on next and talk some more. So stay with us because we'll be right back with labor.
Okay, so we drowned the fire, stirred it, drowned it again, and now just feel if it's cold.
Yeah.
Cool.
Smokey just gave me a bear hug.
I know. Already posted it.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made this vacation happen.
Double points with every purchase?
Cleverly merging promotions.
I love it.
Cross-referencing travel sites. And booking all your flights with those...
Vouchers. I got us bumped.
They were like, oh. But now they're like... Aloha. You aced this vacation. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
Don't ignore the subtext. It's on us to intervene in sexual assault. Because we can. Take the pledge at itsonus.org.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your hosts.
Welcome back. I'm Bettina Lawton, and this is our Labor Day show. And joining me now is Tammie Wondong Ware. She is a nearly 30-year Fairfax County employee and president of the Fairfax County Government Employees Union. She is an outspoken advocate for workers' rights and civil rights and a leader in her community, church, and union. She lives in Prince William with her family, where she is an active political volunteer, knocking hundreds of doors and making hundreds of calls every election cycle. So Tammie, welcome to the show. This is your first time on, your maiden voyage.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, we still have David Broder with us. Well, thank you for staying with us. So I did not really know that there was a separate union for Fairfax County government employees. When did that happen?
That happened in 2006.
Okay. And so why did the Fairfax County employees decide to organize?
Well, we decided to organize because we saw the need for a union in the workplace. There are many of the employees who just do not understand the policies, how the policies work. And you could just, they could be fired. Just didn't understand how policy works for them, and so we needed for a union, which we did merge with SEIU, to come and to help support us in helping the employees to better understand, when there's issues on the job, how to better understand before it leads to termination.
Okay, so why SEIU? David, you obviously you do health care, and we've done all these other things. So how did the SEIU become involved with the Fairfax County government?
The same time that Tammie and her sisters and brothers and the founding president Karen Conker were forming a union in Fairfax, we were working with home care providers around the Commonwealth. And while we all do different jobs, what united us was a real sense that the laws, the power structure in Virginia was not giving a voice to working people. And so that we were going to unite together, we were going to mobilize, and we were going to make sure that working people had a voice in politics so that we could raise wages, so that we could protect health care and expand retirement benefits. But at the same time that we were going to look at Richmond, that we were going to change some of the politicians and the laws there so that all working families would have a chance to succeed.
So now, does anybody in Fairfax County have the right to join your union? I know David does, like healthcare people, and there are the deputy sheriffs. So can people from all the different departments join the Fairfax County government employee unions?
Yes, they can.
Okay. And so how many folks have joined? It's a new union. It's relatively young.
Yes.
How is it going organizing it?
I would say it's going great. I can say that we have over 2,000 members at this time, and we're steadily growing each day as we continue to educate new employees. Our veteran members, they continue to become educated as to the why we are there, and with that they can continue to spread the message, so we continue to grow in number.
So what kind of issues are there for Fairfax County government employees? After all, isn't Fairfax, aren't we like Nirvana or something? No? Didn't think so.
Well, there are issues, and I'm sure you have heard at this point.
We have issues with retirement, right? The pension problems,
that
right?
is the big scoop around the county now. Everyone, just people are just frantic because I take myself, for example. I've worked nearly 30 years in the county, and to think that I would have to continue to work because certain programs may be cut, and so it's not giving me the option to retire because things are health insurance is going up. Just pre-Social Security, they're talking about abolishing that. We have other programs that that we have looked forward to, because this is the reason I came, because of the benefit package.
Well, that's what I thought. I mean, the traditional theory always
the benefit package is what brought me to the county.
Right.
You know, and as well as a lot of the other employees, they came because of that benefit package. It's a lucrative, it's a very nice package. So when you have committed to stay, and like I said, I've given them 30 years almost. For the threat to be there, for it to be taken away. So it's just not just for the new hires. Okay, it could be us as well, and so it's going to force us to work longer. But we have the option at this time, like I said, at 55, you can retire with the pre-Social Security paying out up until age 65. But that may go away, and I'm not near that at this point. So it's a big concern for me, as well as many of the other employees.
So maybe I don't understand how this works, but I would have thought that you could only make those kinds of radical changes for new employees. I mean, I've always heard of this tiered employment. So the people who got hired today don't have those kinds of benefits, but people like you who have been there for a long time get to keep them. That's not how it works? I thought that's how it worked.
It's not set in stone, because if it was, they would have already said, okay, don't worry, but we have not received that assurance. So it could be any of us.
Okay.
It doesn't matter your years of service. You can just be put in the same package as the new hires, and they want us to believe it's only going to affect the new hires. But no, our older ones, we are just as concerned, because we came for a career, but at the same time, we may just have to continue to work up until age 65, and that's not what I had planned for.
Yeah, that wasn't your bargain.
And we've seen some politicians on the Board of Supervisors team up with ALEC, the large corporate-funded extremist right-wing group, to give presentations around Fairfax talking about the changes that they want to see. And they're talking about buying out current employees. So while most of the changes, they say, are for new employees, they're talking about buying out the benefits of current employees. They're talking about moving away from a defined benefit. So we know other politicians on the board are saying they don't want to see any changes. But on this Labor Day, we think it's a great opportunity for the Board of Supervisors to speak out very clearly and say that the retirement benefits are an important part of what makes this county great, of what attracts the wonderful talent that cares for our children, our older adults, our small businesses, and that we are going to strengthen that system, not cut it, whether for new employees or for current employees.
So is a big issue the defined benefit plans? Because clearly private sector has for years been going to the defined contribution, the 401ks and those kinds of things, which obviously put the risk on the employee, which is why a lot of employees don't want it. You know, you want that pension. So people that I know who have the defined benefit pensions they're secure. There is that feeling of secure. They don't have to say, oh, what's going to happen to the stock market? What's going to happen? Am I going to lose a third of everything that I'm relying on? Is that a sort of a job retirement security issue to make sure that that defined benefit plan stays in place?
Yes, we want that. That's what was said when we came in. This is your benefit packet. This will stay with you through the entirety of your employment. However long you stay, you take that with you. But it's not guaranteed. We want them to say, this is guaranteed.
Right.
And it's usually said, we can't guarantee anything, but we will take a look. And some programs will be cut, but that's not. We want to know as employees that we will receive yearly raises, which we have not.
Right.
So all of these, you know, it impacts along the way, and so it's just, this is why we're fighting to say we need employees like myself, and of course those who are not in the union, they benefit as well. It would benefit them to join, because the bigger the number, the better we heard.
That's
so
right.
It's just that that's our fight. Give us our fair share. Okay.
And I would say this is an issue that impacts the entire community. Families move to Fairfax because of the quality of life. Major companies and businesses relocate to Fairfax and open headquarters because of the quality of life for their employees. And so whether you drive on the roads or you use the libraries or your children go to the schools or you want to make sure that firefighters and EMT workers are there for you if God forbid you should need that, then you want the best workforce. And I really would like to see our politicians having a discussion about how do we recruit and retain quality workers like Tammie and her coworkers, rather than this conversation about cuts here and cuts there. Let's talk about how we build the kind of workforce that our local families deserve.
Well, that really comes down to the issue. I mean, I know the county executive, I guess is who it was, issued some warning saying the county was going to be short like $100 million next year. And everyone sort of went, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Do you all think that that's a real number? Is that just sort of a pretext to say now we have to make all these cuts? Because what I always hear is, the school system always seems to be short $100 million. I don't know why, it's always $100 million. And somehow the schools are still open, they're still sort of functioning. So what do you do with that kind of a thing? Because that clearly is what people use to justify and say, well, our biggest expense, I'm assuming the biggest expense of the county is compensation and things like that, to say we need to cut all this stuff out. Is that just a pretext?
I would say it is. I would say it is, because every year we do come with a surplus.
It's true. We haven't run out of money yet.
Yeah, haven't ran out yet. So.
Oh, interesting.
But it's that it impacts the employees when we don't receive just the just the basic, cost of living adjustment.
Well, and you went a number of years without any kind of raises in the county.
It was about 7, 8 years. Yeah.
Well, I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah, it was that long.
Wow.
And we stayed because of the amount of time that was there.
Right.
And then when you're trying to go out and match what you're making, it's kind of difficult to find that. And then, so what do? You stay.
You stay.
And hope that things get better.
Well, and it is. I do know that a lot of people, when they would be looking and saying, well, I could go, because I'm an attorney, they'd say, well, I can go and I can work for the county and I won't make as much money, but I've got that security there. And so you could get some really amazingly qualified people who, in balancing current income versus that security in the job, the security in the retirement. And that's a very important thing for a lot of folks, particularly people such as yourself, where you've invested all of this time to suddenly not potentially have that security. It's hard.
It's not right. You just kind of like walking day to day, wondering what is going to happen.
Right.
And so,
and that's, I think, why I think what Tammie's leadership and her coworkers are about shows why unions are so needed and so important as our economy moves to more part-time work. I think we're all looking for that kind of security that you talked about. I think we're all looking to know that our hard work will be honored. And we're seeing that in the public sector as well. Every year, more and more jobs are moved from full-time with benefits to part-time with benefits. And Tammie and her coworkers, when they tried to do that in the libraries, really stood up and said, no, we need to make sure that we have full-time libraries, that our children deserve full-time librarians. And so I think it is about what we are doing in the workforce, but also what we're doing in the larger economy to really insist that all jobs are good jobs.
Right. Well, I want to thank you both for coming on to our Labor Day show, and we will be right back.
Observe a domesticated human family in their natural habitat, known to their species as the backyard.
Hey, you think I should light it now?
I think it's good.
Yeah.
Oh dear, someone is about to burn a pile of debris that's too tall, which can start a wildfire. Wait, could it be? Blimey, it is.
It's Smokey.
It's Smokey Bear. What a legend.
Hey, it's Smokey. Sorry, it was too high. Right.
Watch as he astutely ensures that there's no wind, and how he removes some of the debris to create a smaller, safer burning pile.
No, you said make it bigger, baby. The bigger the better.
Take note of our fearless furry friend here, humans.
I appreciate it. Fist bump.
Watching you.
Smokey's done it again.
Bye, Smokey.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Here's to the things that can keep us safe. And now, those that we carry with us everywhere will bring us wireless emergency alerts. With the unique sound and vibration, you'll be in the know, wherever you are.
It takes less than 1 minute to find out if you may have prediabetes, and you can do it here. So what are you waiting for? Just go to the site.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to our Labor Day show. I'm Bettina Lawton, and we have now Neri Canahui, who was born in Guatemala City, Guatemala, and I know I butchered his name. I am so sorry. At age 17, he came to the United States alone, looking for a better life, and through hard work, he learned English in 3.5 years, and as we know, English is a very hard language to learn. And although he also learned residential carpentry trade, he was not a union member, he had no benefits. After 10 years, he had the opportunity to work for a contractor in a project labor agreement project, we're going to talk about what those are, and was offered a chance to join the United Brotherhood of Carpenters and Joiners of America. And there he got involved in the local meetings and was appointed as recording secretary and later became the first Latino president of the Regional Council for Carpenters Local 1665. He was also a union organizer for the Regional Council of Carpenters, and he is now the president of Carpenters Local 197, a representative of the Keystone Mountain Lakes Regional Council of Carpenters, and an executive board member for Nova Labor Federation. He became a U.S. citizen in 2003. So, Neri, tell us what your name really is, since I totally butchered that. I'm sorry.
Well, thank you for having me. My name is Neri Canahui. Close enough. I've been called all sorts of things before, but thank you for letting us have the opportunity to talk about who the Carpenters Union is.
Well, I want to backtrack first to who Nova Labor Federation was, because it said that you're part of that. So what is that?
Nova Labor Federation is the Northern Virginia chapter of the AFL-CIO. Okay. So our president right now is Virginia Diamond. She's doing a great job, and her sole purpose is to bring all the unions that are around this area together so that we can have one direction, one effort to things that we have in common.
So all of the unions that are part of Nova Labor Federation are somehow affiliated with the AFL-CIO?
If not to the international body, to the local chapter like us.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And so you also were involved with the Keystone Mountain Lakes Regional Council of Carpenters. So you've got the Nova, I'm trying to understand all this. You've got the Nova Labor Federation, but then you've got this council.
Right.
So what's the council versus the federation then?
Okay, we have our international body, which is the UBC, the United Brotherhood of Carpenters and Joiners of America. Then it is structured so that you have a regional council, which we are the Keystone Mountain Lakes Regional Council, and I'm president of a local for this area that is affiliated with. That is part of the Keystone Mountain Lakes Regional Council of Carpenters.
Okay, so you've got your individual unions, then you've got the regional, and then you've got this federation.
Right, and the Nova Labor Federation is what it is, the AFL-CIO only in Northern Virginia, which is a union of unions, and we are affiliated with them, and we get together, we work on different things together.
All right, sounds all very complicated. So let me go simple here
Great.
And just ask you, so what's the Carpenters Union? Is this just carpenters in the Carpenters Union?
Well, it's funny you ask that question because a lot of people think that once you say carpenter, all we work is in wood. Right. We have, we are one trade, many crafts. Carpenters, we represent general carpenters, which they do concrete forms, they work on bridges, water treatment plants, buildings, houses. We also do floor covering.
Carpenters?
Yes, we're with the Carpenters Union. We do floor coverings, which is carpets, vinyls, resilient floorings, wood floorings. We also do interior systems, which we do framing, metal framing, wood framing, drywall, acoustical ceilings, everything. We work, the Carpenters members work in every aspect of any construction project.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yes.
I just assumed that people who did concrete had their own thing, that they weren't carpenter people.
No, that's us.
Okay, so you get all of these people together. Now, how big is the Carpenters Union?
Excuse me?
How big is the union?
We are somewhere around 500,000 members in the United States and Canada. Like I said before, we are a small local here. We have grown about 28% in the last year in our local alone. We are now around 1,600 members in the Northern Virginia area, Washington, D.C.
Okay, so what are the kinds of people who are in your unions? Obviously, you came from Guatemala, and as I said, you didn't speak English, so is this common among the people who are the carpenters, or is it people from all over the world, or where do you get your members from?
We have members that live here, of course, in the area, but from basically every country. We are, in our local, we are very diverse.
Okay. And you mentioned when we were talking before that you actually conduct your union meetings in 2 languages?
That is correct.
And is that typical for unions, or is that just special for you?
Well, in our council, we are the only local that does that. And one of the reasons is we want to make sure that every member understands what the union is, what we're doing, where the next project is coming up, who's hiring, who's not. And we want to make sure that everybody understands all the rules and regulations, as well as the constitution of the Brotherhood.
And do people who come here, for example, like you did, are unions common in these other places so that they have a familiarity? Or when you say you're trying to make sure everybody understands how this all works, is this like all new to them?
No, but they might have a different idea of what a trade union is. Like perhaps in Guatemala, that there's there's a lot. They're persecuted. They are not welcome. And here is a different thing. But it's funny you ask that, because here in Virginia, you go to parts of Virginia where nobody knows what the Carpenters Union is or what a union is, and we want to make sure that everybody understands that they have a good chance of getting at any union. And they need to understand what's the economic power that they will have, as well as the decision power that they will have as far as their wages and benefits.
So the carpenters unions and the contractors who hire them, what's the benefit versus hiring somebody who's not in the union then?
Okay, yes. Our contractors, our signatory contractors, are responsible contractors that are looking for safety, production, and training, as well as quality of work. And that's where we come in. We have a apprenticeship program, 4 years apprenticeship program, where all our apprentices go through every aspect of the construction industry, and when they come out, they are capable of running a job.
Okay, so how does someone get into that kind of apprenticeship program?
Okay. Well, the first thing that we want is that anybody that does any of the crafts that we cover, we would love to have them in the Carpenters Union. But they don't have to just come in and say, hey, I want to come in into the Carpenters Union. They can actually organize their company. Whatever they work, they don't even have to leave their company. But if they come forward and they say they want to form a union in their company, we can help them out with that.
And how are contractors in terms of, we heard from David Broder earlier in the show that a lot of the big corporations engage in anti-union activities. Are the contractors actually open to having their shops unionized by carpenters?
They're not. There is a a few contractors that actually are very successful and very open to have only a union workforce. We have a lot of the union contractors. We have a big list of general contractors in interior systems and every contractors from every aspect of the construction. But there is some contractors that believe that they're not going to be competitive once they are unionized, and that is wrong.
Okay, because you bring to it the training, the safety type of things. I've got to think that has some value when you're dealing with things like building stuff. That's inherently dangerous to begin with, isn't it?
That is correct, and it's very important to understand that what we're trying to do here is help carpenters or help union members have a good retirement, have good wages, and be able to provide for their families in their communities.
So are the contractors that you use, are they just the big contractors who are doing like these huge projects, or do you, because a lot of contractors that I know, it seems to me that they have these guys that come work for them or women who come work for them, and they never seem to be the same people.
Well, that's a big problem in the industry right here, that there is a lot of payroll fraud, a lot of cash payment, and that is a problem not only for the contractors but for the communities. When that happens, let's say a contractor comes in and hires somebody and says, hey, listen, I'm going to pay you $15 an hour cash. That exempts the contractor from paying any workers' comp and unemployment insurance. When that happens, we don't have taxes coming to the state or to the federal government for schools and other things.
Well, I want in our last minute or so here, because we mentioned in the intro that you got hired on a project labor agreement project. Yes. And project labor agreements kind of got a bad rap a few years ago involving Metro or something. Right. So what is a project labor agreement? Why would somebody want it?
Okay, project labor agreement is a project where there is a understanding between the owner and the unions and the contractors that are going to be performing the task and the projects, that there's going to be certain rules and regulations, including fringes and wages for the workers that are going to be there. And what that does, it guarantees that everybody's going to be paying taxes, and also they're going to be paying a prevailing rate at that project.
Okay, and the benefit to the employer, as I recall this, is that you've got a good, qualified, steady workflow of people coming in.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you were able to come today, because I certainly learned a whole lot about the Carpenters Union. It's much broader than it was. Now, how long is your term as president?
We are going to have general elections next year, and we'll do what the members want. But I do want to say that anybody out there that is a carpenter or is a union member, anybody on their trade, your trade is your promised land, and you are here to take it, take action, get involved, and give back to the community.
Well, thank you so much for coming, Neri. And everyone stay with us. We are going to have Elizabeth Guzman on next. She is running for the House of Delegates this year.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Please have a seat. I'll be honest. Your resume is not what I'm used to.
I know.
Okay, so what would you bring to my company?
What do you need?
I need a hard worker.
Good. I've got 2 part-time jobs and to help my parents pay the bills.
I need problem-solving skills.
I got through high school without a car, a phone, or a computer.
No college degree, though.
Not yet, but life's taught me a lot, and I'm ready for more.
Well, you're not the typical kind of candidate that I hire. But you are exactly what I'm looking for.
Your company could be missing out on the candidates it needs most. Learn how to find, cultivate, and train a great pool of untapped talent at gradsoflife.org.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back. I'm Bettina Lawton, and we are in our final segment of our Labor Day program. And I have with me Elizabeth Guzman. She is an advocate and fighter for hardworking people. She has been working in the public sector for 10 years and currently works as the Division Chief for Administrative Services at the Center for Adult Services for the City of Alexandria. Elizabeth also works tirelessly as a court-appointed service advocate for CASA CIS to prevent child abuse, a PTO representative for Penn Elementary School, and as a cookie mom for her youngest daughter's Girl Scout troop. Now I know where to get my cookies. Elizabeth came to the United States from Peru as a single mom looking for a better future for her oldest daughter. She remembers those early years working 3 jobs in order to afford a 1-bedroom apartment. And with her love of learning, she persevered. She enrolled at the Northern Virginia Community College, obtaining her degree in Office Administration and Management. She also holds a bachelor's in public safety from Capella University, a master's in public administration from American University, and a master's in social work from the University of Southern California. She is an overachiever. She is the Democratic Party candidate for the House of Delegates in the 31st District, which includes Prince William and Fauquier counties. The seat is currently held by a Republican. Now, it's important to know Hillary Clinton won the district, 51 to 44%. And the last time her opponent ran for election at the same time that a governor ran, he won by only 1%. She will be the first Hispanic member of the House of Delegates. So welcome to the show, Elizabeth. I'm pleased that you were able to join us. I know this is it right before, Labor Day is the big kickoff, so for campaigns. But you've been at it hard all summer. You had a primary, which you won. Mm-hmm. And so you've gotten your general election team up and going over the summer, yes?
Yes, so we started knocking on doors July 1st, right after the primary. After we won the primary on June 14th, we started asking for donations because we have to replenish our funds. We spent down to 0 for the primary, and then we started knocking on doors July 1st, and we are continue to knock on doors every day, Monday through Sunday, and we also have phone banks. There's a lot of organizations that have adopted my campaign, so our phone banks are not only held locally, but also outside of Prince William County and outside of Virginia as well.
And that's because of the possibility of electing the first Hispanic, qualified, incredibly, as I said in the intro, you've got all of this education, you've all this work experience, you've got all of these great attributes that say that you would be a terrific delegate. So I'm not surprised that people would be adopting your campaign and trying to help you do this. Now, I know that you're a big advocate for change in the school systems in Prince William. Mm-hmm. Where you live. So what are the issues that are concerning you there? Why are you concerned about those things?
Well, the issues in Prince William County start with lack of early childhood education programs. As you mentioned before, I worked before in Fairfax County, and I'm currently working in the city of Alexandria. So I can compare and contrast what they have over there and we don't have in Prince William County or Fauquier County. So for example, with programs like Early Head Start and Head Start, we're only serving 1% of the population of children under 5, what the percentages are greater in other counties. So what I see is that what is not happening is because there is a reluctance of local government working with the state and applying for this federal government money that we could use to open these programs. Unfortunately, my opponent, he doesn't believe in early childhood education. He doesn't even believe in full-day kindergarten.
Oh, well, that's like, but those have been shown to make a huge difference.
He disagrees with that. I mean, as you mentioned, the statistics have shown that any child who's exposed to the early childhood education experience will be more likely to succeed in high school, will be more likely to go to college or vocational school. But for me as a mom, most importantly, it will allow my moms, while their children are offered with quality care and quality education, my moms could join the workforce or go to school if they want and become self-sufficient.
Well, and the cost of childcare is so enormous in this area that if you don't have, I mean, as the programs themselves for children are shown to help them, and that it is a better economic investment in early childhood education than trying to fix things when they go wrong later.
That's
I mean,
right.
that alone would say economically that would be a great decision, but allowing the moms to then get into the workforce and add more to that, it seems like a win-win all the way around. It's a very strange position that your opponent is taking.
Yes, very strange. But that is just the beginning of the many issues that we have in the school system in Prince William County and Fauquier County. You know, we have laws throughout the years, special education classrooms. In the elementary schools in Prince William County, we only have one special education classroom with one teacher, no assistants, and your child will go there regardless of the disability or the age. And I didn't know that until I had to navigate the system myself, because I do have a child that has ADHD, and he's actually the one who inspired me to go to the social work field. Just to learn more about it. And when I realized that my child will be placed in a classroom with children with other mental challenges that are more severe, then I had to become his own advocate. And that's when I learned that we only have one classroom per elementary school. I mean, things also, programs like Project Discovery that other counties have, we don't. And that's the reason. It's because my opponent also voted to defund Project Discovery, a program who will increase the amount of guidance counselors in the schools. And right now, the ratio for guidance counselors is 1 for 500 students, and they don't have to do only that job. We lost social workers and psychologists in the schools, so my guidance counselors also have to do the jobs of 3 people. But for me, how does affect you? How does it affect families? You know, as a mother of 4 and a mother that have raised one teenager that is now a young adult and a teenage daughter now, I can tell you that these programs are necessary. Because what happened, teenagers right now go through a mix of feelings. You know, they get in trouble without knowing. They don't understand yet what life is about until they leave school. So those services are extremely necessary. But also, you know, if they were to have a mental health challenge, then they could find that assistance with the guidance counselors. They could be diagnosed, so when they graduate from high school, they could face, society the right way and become normal, because as a social worker, once again, I believe that with therapy and with medicine, you can have a normal life. But also parents, you know, it's not easy for parents to learn that your children has a mental challenge. There's still a stigma, and the stigma is across all of the races. So it's important for guidance counselors to train parents how to become a support systems for their children. And that's, for me, it's so important to increase the number of guidance counselors in high schools.
Well, it's pretty shocking, the 1 to 500. It's like, how can you be effective at all with those kinds of numbers, and how do you actually get to know all of those students? It's just an impossibility to do that. But one of the other things, and this goes to the mental health system as well, that I know you're very strong on, is the whole issue of expanding Medicaid in Virginia. And I know Terry McAuliffe has been trying to do that for years, and I'm assuming that you support that.
Absolutely. I mean, as working in the human services field, I've seen people dying for not having health insurance. So I can tell you that it is not only the right thing to do, but I believe that healthcare is a human right and is not a privilege. So for me, it does not only make sense, but it also makes physical sense, because we are giving up $12 billion that could come to Virginia, that the federal government gives to other states that are offering Medicaid, like Maryland and California. So we're giving up money that we could use not only for healthcare, but we could use it all for transportation. We could use it for schools as well. But also, most importantly, we're leaving behind 400,000 Virginians who live under the poverty guideline, who are eligible now to qualify for Medicaid.
Well, hopefully, if we can do something about the composition of the House of Delegates, we could make a difference in that, since certainly the Republican side of the aisle has been pretty staunchly opposed to expanding Medicaid, which I find interesting, since a lot of the people that they represent would benefit from that. It seems like an odd position to take.
Yeah, right in my district, we have 1,200 people that are eligible to Medicaid now, but they have this resistance just to mimic, the president, and everything he says, they will just say yes, and which is not right, Even talking about Obamacare versus Trump care, my opponent has not been vocal as far as what is his position on Trump care and blocking Obamacare that will leave 650,000 Virginians without insurance with pre-existing conditions.
Is he responding to any of the issues, or is he just being totally silent on things like what's going on at the federal level that affects us at the state level? I know they try to say, oh, the federal level is just, we don't need to, we're not talking about that here, but it does affect Virginia.
Absolutely, it does affect Virginia, and especially in times where the recent events of Charlottesville, where we had the president that he's blaming the both sides, and that's the same thing that he repeated. So we have to take a position. We have to name acts of terror as they are. There is discrimination, there is racism, and if we don't do that now, then we will never be able to move over and just end with it.
Now, you're in Prince William, and you're kind of notorious because of your chairman for the anti-immigrant, and really comes down to an anti-Hispanic atmosphere that they've had in Prince William. How is running as a Latina woman in Prince William County, is that becoming an issue in the campaign?
Well, it's not becoming an issue at all. I mean, from the constituents, the problem is with him. He lives in my district. So if I'm elected, I will be his delegate. But for me, it's very personal, as you mentioned, and thank you for asking that question, because usually in Prince William County, people who look like me has been often labeled as criminals, as gang members, as undocumented, and it's hard to live in a place where we are usually persecuted. Now, I resisted and I stayed in Prince William County because it gave me the opportunity to become a homeowner as a single mother. So I'm not gonna go nowhere. I'm gonna stay in Prince William County, and he's gonna have to, just get used to us. And that's another thing, the population of Latinos in the 31st district is about 5,000 of us who live in the 31st district. And my opponent has never stood up against him to protect us and to say, stop that divisive policy, stop the racism, that the only thing that it does is just to divide the community. I want to go to Richmond and end with that. I wanted to be the voice of all Virginians, hardworking Virginians. And we have to make Virginia as a more welcoming society where everyone is welcome, regardless of your race, your sex, your sexual orientation, your immigration status, your culture. We have to make Virginia a more inclusive place, because that's what is going to drive our economy.
Well, I want to thank you very much for coming on to our Labor Day show, and good luck in the campaign, and I hope to see you sworn in come January.
Thank you so much. I just would like to invite people to visit my webpage if they want to know more about my campaign, www.elizabethguzmanforvirginia.com. Thank you.